Hello, everyone. Okay, this is our second lecture, and continuing our first lecture. Of course, the assignment was to listen to Britain's The Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra, and let me tell you a little bit about this work, as it's really important for anyone that wants to listen to music or likes to listen to music, or if this is your first time listening to classical music. It's really important that you have. Just a little bit of a short background about that work specifically. So this is a work composed by Benjamin Britten, and that's a British composer that lived in the 20th century, the first part of the 20th century. He's a really important icon in England and in music in England in general, of the new generation or the modern generation, the 20th century. But he actually borrowed a theme, لحن, a theme by another British composer from the Renaissance. So that's someone that lived like hundreds of years before Britain, and he composed this theme. And Britain just simply, of course, that's Henry Purcell. The composer is Henry Purcell, and that's a composer from the Renaissance. He's a really important figure, and also in England, and he's buried in Westminster Abbey, and he was an icon. He is an icon for Renaissance music, and he composed this work. And Britain came later on in the 20th century and took that theme and weaved an entire work based on this theme. Let's listen to it real quick. I'm not sure if you'll be able to listen to be able to hear this pretty well or not, but that's the same recording that you guys have. Let me know if you cannot hear it. I'd like to get real feedback about this. So, right. All right. So this is the theme. This is what Henry Purcell actually wrote. And then later on, of course, this is only the theme, and that is what Britain has taken and put in the beginning of the work. And then he takes it and weaves and makes lots of different variations around the very same theme that you just heard, played by the different sections of the orchestra, which we will discuss probably next class. But the different sections of the orchestra. So you have different sections. You have woodwinds, you have brass, you got the strings, and then you got the percussions. And within each of those sections, there are also, I would call it, subsections, or like smaller sections of instruments, smaller families of instruments. So you have the violins, violas, cello, double basses, and you got the harp, you got flutes, oboes, clarinets, bassoon, you got trumpet, French horn, trombone, tuba. You got pretty much you got all these instruments in smaller sections, also playing by themselves or taking the lead, or actually playing a melody or playing the main line of music, where everyone else is sort of serving or filling in underneath them, but they are actually in the spotlight there. So that's what Britain has done, and he actually done a really great work that we enjoy playing. I personally have played it in the orchestra, as I play the French horn, and I didn't actually get to tell you guys about what do I do, but I actually play the French horn. I play classical music and I also play Arabic music. I play with Omar Khairat, one of the founding members of his group, and I've done a lot of those Arabic, pop, classical, you name it, pretty much I've done it. So I've played this work before and I really enjoy it because you get your own sort of glory moment, each of those instruments. So there's no prime instrument and serving instruments and instruments in the middle. No, you got, everyone has got their turn of the spotlight there. Of course, with music being an important, and not only an important, but a very main or major part of the Christian faith. So you have music in the church, and of course, when you get to reading, you'd know that you get to find out that church was actually I would say, control of a lot of things in Europe. And of course, music being part of the service, whether it's the weekly Sunday service, or if you have Easter, or you got the Christmas, and all these different ceremonial occasions in the church always involve music. So music was very important. And of course, you get to see that. I mean, you know that church had a lot of power over royalties in Europe back during the Renaissance. And of course, the more power you have as a church, the better musicians you get to hire, the better composers or compositions you get to commission, and of course, that had a lot of impact on music, because not only quantity wise, but actually, that's the beauty of it. The church had the ability of actually documenting, right, and writing everything down. So when you have everything written down, you have us today get to play it. So we actually play music that spanned for like hundreds of years ago in classical music, let's say 400 years ago or 500 years ago. But then it is written down, so we actually get to look at the music, or get to see what the notes are, and get to play it. Of course, that beats having to resort to another way of transmitting music. When you write something down and you document it, somebody could come in later and try to play it close to what you wanted, to how you played it. But then, if you have something that we call oral transmission, with oral transmission, you find that it's not that. Of course, I get to play a piece of music, and you could hear it, and you like it. You get to play it on your own. You're gonna change a few things. Naturally happens. And of course, with each person sort of handing down that work, it's just not going to be the same. And of course, that's something that has to do with Arabic music. We'll get to discuss that with Arabic music. But with classical music, everything is written down, so everything is put into actual symbols, I would say, notes or dynamics or tempo, or any of those. So those are also things that we get to discuss with the elements of music. But then we get to the moral of the story. Britain, young person's guide to the orchestra. I just wanted to run real quick, run through it with you real quick, and just give you a layout of what you're supposed to listen to. You're supposed to listen to the main instrument playing the main line of melody, or instruments playing the main line of melody, and do not really concern yourself much with the other instruments that are playing in the background, or like serving the main line. Always listen to the main line of melody. And it's always going to be, of course, have the entire orchestra, and then after that you have the woodwind section, and then you have the brass section, I believe, and then the strings, and last you have the percussions, and then the entire orchestra plays the very same theme again, the original theme again. And then you have different instruments. So you start with the flutes, and then the oboes, and then the clarinets come in, and then the bassoons, and then you have the trumpet, French horn, trombone, tuba. All of them have their turn, and you get to listen to the theme being repeated differently. So it's not going to sound the same. So when you listen to the flute playing their section, it's still a variation around the original theme, and it's just not going to sound the same like when the bassoon plays, or the trumpets, or the French horn. So of course, I just wanted to make sure that you know that, and I really urge you guys to listen to this work a few times, and then of course, we get to talk a lot more about it. I actually intend to have or to talk in depth about the different instruments. Okay, tomorrow in our lecture for tomorrow. So I will leave you now, and I hope you enjoy listening to the music, and I would like to get some feedback from you guys. And as I said, we're going to do these videos for just probably 3 or 4, 5 classes, actually 4 or 5 classes to be exact, just to touch base on fundamentals with the orchestra, with the instruments, with the elements of music, and then we get to talk about the Western classical culture and how it actually went, how did everything happen, and how the church controlled music, and how did that affect the society, and how music actually still maintained being in the church, but also outside the church. Well, the norm before that was you have, I mean, you want to listen to the music in the Renaissance, you could listen to it in the church in a service, or you have the wandering musicians of troubadours and trovers that wander in the streets and play music and telling, stories and tales and all. It's kind of like what we used to have, the rababa player going from one town to another, one village to another, telling the stories of Abu Zaid al-Hilali, or telling, tales that we have from our own culture. So that's pretty much what they have, but it's the same like we had. So it's an oral transmission, nothing to be actually notated or documented or actually traced down in history. Okay, where church music written down, and that was very important to be followed in the society outside the church, and we'll find out about that later. I mean, in the following lectures. I will see you guys tomorrow, and we will go over the Britain again. And this time we're going to talk about different instruments and sections. And I just want you guys to know that I really enjoy this course, and I really like, of course, being a classical musician. For one, it's really important that you listen to classical music a lot, and of course, to listen to classical music and be able to listen to other cultures and comprehend the music is even more enjoyable, because you get to develop a taste, and you have different tastes. It's kind of like I don't know, if you like Italian food and you have a taste for Chinese, or you have a taste for Indian or American or any kind of cuisine, instead of having to be restricted with only one or two. All right. Well, I will talk to you guys again tomorrow. Thank you very much. I'll see you.